You are standing on an island in the middle of the sea. Under your feet, not ground. Under your feet, 1 million trees. One of the most beautiful cities in the world was built on a swamp. And the engineering behind it is unlike anything else in human history. A city of 118 islands, 472 bridges, 177 canals, and 0 solid ground. This is the story of how it was done. The year is 452 AD. The Roman Empire is collapsing. Germanic tribes sweep across Italy in waves, burning everything in their path. Then came Attila, the man Roman historians called the Scourge of God. In 452 AD, his Huns burned the city of Altinum to the ground. Tens of thousands of survivors fled in the only direction cavalry could not follow, onto the water, into fishing boats, anything that could float. Ahead of them only marshes, shallow water, mud, reeds, the islands of Rialto, home to a handful of fishermen. Nobody else wanted them, but nobody else had a cavalry hunting them. The refugees stopped, and they decided this is where we stay. More waves followed. From Attila, then the Lombard invasion of 568 AD. Each wave brought more people, more skills, more determination. By 700 AD, thousands lived here permanently. But building on these islands was not like building anywhere else on Earth. The ground was not solid. It was layers of soft silt, sand, and water-saturated mud, going down for meters. Any heavy structure simply sank. Early settlers watched their first buildings disappear into the mud. Some foundations failed within months. No civilization had ever tried to build a permanent city in a tidal lagoon. Venetian engineers spent decades experimenting. Beneath the soft, unstable layers, at a depth of 2 to 8 meters, there was something different. A layer of dense compressed clay called Coranto, hard as stone, stable, immovable. The plan: drive wooden piles down through the soft layers until they reached the Coranto. Let the Coranto carry the weight. But to build an entire city this way, they needed wood. Staggering quantities of wood. Historians estimate that loggers cleared entire forests across Slovenia, Croatia, and Montenegro. Millions of trees over centuries. There is even a Slovenian proverb, Venice stands on karstokes. Today those forests are still recovering. The preferred wood was alder and oak for the piles, dense and heavy. Each pile was sharpened to a point by hand, then driven into the ground with a 200-kilogram hammer, up to 4 meters deep. Logs were floated down rivers from the Balkans, then rafted across the Adriatic to the lagoon, a logistics operation rivaling a military campaign. Teams of workers hauled a heavy weight up by rope, then released it to drop onto the pile below. Sometimes hundreds of blows to reach the Coranto. Workers could feel when the pile stopped moving with each blow. Only then was it safe. Only then could the next one begin, a few centimeters away. Once the field of piles was complete, horizontal larch planks were laid across the pile tops, creating a wooden raft. On top of that, slabs of Istrian stone. Istrian stone, quarried in Croatia, is almost completely impermeable to water. It acted as a waterproof seal between the wooden structure below and everything above. On top of the stone, brick buildings were constructed, as light as possible to avoid overloading the foundation. Even the facades were flexibly anchored, not rigidly fixed, so the building could settle without cracking. Here is the question that stumps people. Wood in water rots. Everyone knows that. So why haven't these million piles rotted in 1,000 years? Wood rots through bacteria and fungi consuming the wood. But they need one thing: oxygen. Without oxygen, decay is impossible. Deep in the anaerobic clay of the Venice lagoon, there is virtually no dissolved oxygen. The wood cannot rot. What's more, the mineral-rich lagoon water slowly infiltrated the wood. Over centuries, the wood cells filled with calcium and silica, the minerals of stone. The wood was turning to stone. Beneath Venice is not rotting wood. It is a forest of stone. 1 million stone pillars holding up one of the greatest cities in history. Under a single church, Santa Maria della Salute, 1,160,000 piles. By the year 810 AD, Venice had established its permanent capital. The city was no longer a refugee camp. It was becoming a state, one of the first republics in post-Roman Europe. Venice mastered trade. First salt, harvested from the lagoon and sold across Europe. Salt was medieval gold. Control the salt and you control the food supply of a region. In 1082 AD, Byzantine Emperor Alexios I granted Venice zero customs duties throughout the entire Byzantine Empire. Venetian merchants could trade duty-free everywhere. No competitor had anything like it. By the 13th century, Venice had become the wealthiest city in Europe, population 100,000. A maritime empire built on mud. Among all of Venice's engineering challenges, one stands above the rest: the Rialto Bridge. The Grand Canal divides the city in two, and every wooden bridge built to cross it had burned or collapsed. In 1524, the wooden bridge collapsed again. Venice asked for designs. Michelangelo submitted a design. Palladio submitted a design. Both were rejected. Venice chose an unknown local architect, Antonio da Ponte. Da Ponte's design was radical, a single arch spanning the entire canal. Critics said it would collapse. Construction began in 1588. 12,000 piles were driven into both banks. 10,000 tons of Istrian stone placed on top. The moment of truth, the keystone. Once placed, it would lock the entire arch in compression, or the whole thing would collapse. It held. In 1591, the Rialto Bridge was complete. It has stood for 430 years. No major repairs to its foundation. Those same 12,000 piles still in place, still holding. But how do you supply fresh water to 100,000 people on a saltwater island? The Venetians invented a system of underground cisterns. Every courtyard contains a well, but not a normal well. Collects rainwater. The surrounding paving stones are angled toward the center. Rain flows through sand filtration layers into a sealed brick cistern below. Venice had over 6,000 of these cisterns by the 16th century. Zero infrastructure from the mainland required. At its peak, Venice commanded 300 cargo ships and 45 war galleys. Then in 1347, the Black Death arrived on Venetian trading ships from the Black Sea. Within months, 1/3 of the population was dead. Venice invented the quarantine, from the Venetian word quarantina, 40 days. Ships waited 40 days before crew or cargo could enter the city. Venice survived the plague. It survived every invasion for 1,000 years. It finally fell not to an army, but to Napoleon in 1797, who simply threatened to bombard it. The Republic of Venice had lasted 1,100 years. One of the longest-lived republics in human history. But in the 20th century, a threat emerged that no medieval engineer could have anticipated. The city is sinking 1 to 2 millimeters per year. Sea levels are rising. Venice is being squeezed from below and above simultaneously. Acqua alta floods Venice more than 100 times per year today. In 1966, a catastrophic flood reached 194 centimeters. That flood triggered one of the most ambitious engineering projects ever attempted, the MOSE system. MOSE. 78 hinged steel gates on the seabed at the lagoon's 3 inlets. When a flood is forecast, compressed air fills the gates. They rise and block the Adriatic from entering. On October 3, 2020, Acqua alta was forecast at 135 centimeters, enough to flood 70% of the city. MOSE was activated for the first time. Venice stayed dry. Beneath the streets, the ancient piles held, as they always had. Venice has existed for 1,500 years. Started by people who had lost everything. Built on ground that should not hold weight. A city of stone forests underground, rainwater systems below every courtyard, and a bridge that outlasted every doubt. If this story moved you, subscribe. Next, we reveal another city that should not exist. You won't believe how it was built.